There is a current that runs beneath all human affairs, a dark, pulsing rhythm that the greatest strategists in history have learned to ride like surfers on a midnight wave. You've felt it before, in those moments when reality seemed to bend around certain individuals, when the normal rules of power suspended themselves for those who understood something fundamental about how influence truly works. This isn't about memorizing laws or tactics. This is about awakening to the raw fabric of control itself. They want you studying the 48 laws. They encourage it, because while you're busy counting cards at the table, the real players are the house, and the house always wins. What if I told you there exists a philosophical tradition so potent, so devastating in its understanding of true power, that it makes Green's work look like children's fables? This is not about playing the game better. This is about realizing the game was never real to begin with. The ancient Greeks had a name for this understanding. They called it kratos, not the crude power of force, but the subtle mastery of the underlying currents that shape reality itself, where the 48 laws teach you how to navigate existing power structures. This philosophy reveals why those structures exist in the first place and how to reshape them to your will. Consider for a moment the fundamental flaw in all modern power systems. They assume stability where none exists. The 48 laws operate on the premise that the rules remain constant, that today's strategies will work tomorrow. But history shows us this is never true. The Roman senators who mastered political intrigue found themselves helpless before the rising Christian tide. The medieval lords who perfected feudal control were swept away by merchant revolutions. The business titans of the 20th century watched helplessly as digital waves erased their empires. The secret these ancient teachings reveal is simple yet terrifying. All power is temporary, and the only true mastery comes from understanding the patterns of its flow, not from clinging to structures, but from becoming fluid enough to ride whatever current emerges next. This is why the 48 laws ultimately fail. They're a map of a landscape that's constantly being rearranged. The true masters of power throughout history, from Byzantine emperors to Renaissance bankers to modern tech visionaries, shared one common trait. They didn't just adapt to change, they anticipated and harnessed it. They understood what the ancient philosophers called logos, the hidden pattern beneath apparent chaos. Where others saw random events, they recognized the unfolding of inevitable processes. Your first lesson begins with fire, not as destruction, but as transformation. The ancient alchemists weren't merely playing with chemicals. They were encoding profound psychological truths in their symbolism. When they spoke of solve et coagula, dissolve and coagulate, they were revealing the fundamental rhythm of power itself. All structures must eventually break down so new ones can form. The master doesn't resist this process, but learns to direct it. Consider the case of a modern CEO facing market disruption. The 48 laws player might use Law 28, enter action with boldness, to double down on existing strategies. The true master does something far more dangerous. They dismantle their own company before the market can do it for them. They don't wait for change to come to them. They become the change. This is the fire principle in action. Now turn your attention to water. The river that never stops flowing yet always remains itself. This is the second great principle, the art of maintaining core identity while endlessly adapting form. The politicians who survived decades of upheaval understand this intuitively. They shed policies like dead skin while keeping their fundamental power intact. The businesses that last centuries master this dance of constant reinvention. The final principle is the most dangerous, the understanding that all apparent opposites are secretly united. Your greatest weakness contains the seed of your most devastating strength. Your enemy's most powerful advantage hides their fatal flaw. The master doesn't fight against resistance, but uses it as leverage. They don't avoid crises, but cultivates them as opportunities. This is why the 48 Laws advice to crush your enemies totally is ultimately foolish, because a true master knows that today's defeated enemy could be tomorrow's most valuable ally when the tides change again. The applications of this philosophy are limitless. In business, it explains why some companies thrive during economic collapses, while others perish during booms. In politics, it reveals how certain leaders remain untouchable through scandals that destroy their peers. In personal life, it shows why some individuals seem blessed by fortune while others, despite all their planning, remain stuck in cycles of frustration. But this knowledge comes with a price. Once you see the patterns, you can't unsee them. You'll recognize the puppet strings controlling those around you. You'll perceive the hidden architecture behind every social hierarchy. Most painfully, you'll understand exactly how much of what you believed about power was carefully constructed illusion. The path forward isn't easy. It begins with what the ancients called the purification of perception. Stripping away all your assumptions about how power works, you must learn to see reality as it is, not as you've been taught it should be. This is why so few achieve true mastery, not because the knowledge is hidden, but because most can't bear to let go of their illusions. Your first practical step: start observing the flows around you. Not the surface-level movements, but the deeper currents. Watch how money really moves through your industry. Track how influence actually spreads in your social circles. Notice where resistance forms and how power responds. This isn't passive observation. It's active pattern recognition. Next, begin small experiments in alignment. Position yourself where currents are forming, not where they've already peaked. Test which oppositions can be turned into advantages. Practice the art of strategic dissolution, letting go of positions before they become traps. These are the beginner's steps toward true mastery. The final realization, the one that separates eternal players from temporary pieces, is understanding that you're neither the controller nor the controlled, but the consciousness that contains both. Power doesn't come from domination or submission, but from transcending the duality altogether. This is what the 48 Laws never tell you, that the ultimate power is the freedom to choose your relationship to the game itself. They've been teaching you power through a keyhole your entire life. It's time to step through the door. The choice before you isn't whether to pursue power. That pursuit is inevitable. The only question is whether you'll do so blindly, following outdated maps, or with eyes wide open to the true nature of the territory. The currents are moving right now, with or without you. Save this guide and begin today with just one observation exercise. Identify one system in your life where you've been assuming stability and track how it's actually changing beneath the surface. That simple act will do more for your understanding of power than memorizing 100 laws. The 48 Laws keep you playing checkers while the masters play a different game entirely. The board is being reset as we speak. Will you cling to your old strategies or learn the rules of the new reality? The fire of true transformation awaits. The only question is whether you'll be consumed or forged.